Late on the night of Friday, July 17th, American troops stationed at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan were caught off guard by what witnesses described as an overwhelming barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles and loitering drones. The base, which hosts approximately 1,000 U.S. personnel from Air Defense, Air Force, and unmanned aerial systems units, reportedly came under one of the most intense attacks seen in the region in recent months. Videos allegedly recorded by individuals at the scene appeared to capture the chaos inside the installation. In several clips, explosions could be seen striking different parts of the base, while voices in the background described the attack as devastating. According to multiple reports and military assessments, the operation involved precision-guided ballistic missiles, launched alongside waves of loitering drones. Analysts believe the drones were used to overwhelm air defense systems and radar networks, creating openings for the ballistic missiles to reach their intended targets with greater accuracy. Reports indicate that 3 ballistic missiles struck key areas of the installation. The first reportedly hit the residential housing complex used by American personnel, causing the majority of the reported casualties. The second missile is believed to have impacted recreational and support facilities, resulting in additional injuries from debris and shrapnel. The third reportedly struck aircraft shelters, maintenance facilities, and storage areas associated with MQ-9 Reaper unmanned aircraft. The attack reportedly triggered significant concern within Washington. Official U.S. statements initially acknowledged only a limited number of casualties. However, subsequent reporting by several media organizations suggested that the overall damage may have been considerably more extensive than initially disclosed, involving both personnel and military infrastructure. Satellite imagery analyzed after the strikes also attracted attention among defense analysts. Several assessments concluded that the attacking missiles demonstrated an unusually high level of precision. Military experts often evaluate strike accuracy using a measurement known as the Circular Error Probable, CEP, which estimates how closely a weapon lands to its intended target. According to these assessments, the missiles impacted highly specific facilities across the base, including residential buildings and drone infrastructure, suggesting a level of accuracy rarely observed in previous attacks. Some independent estimates suggested that a substantial portion of critical facilities inside the installation sustained serious damage. For many analysts, the strike represented more than a single battlefield event. It highlighted growing concerns that America's existing network of large military bases across the Middle East, particularly those located in the Gulf region and neighboring countries, could become increasingly vulnerable during future high-intensity conflicts. As a result, reports indicate that Washington has begun examining several major adjustments to its regional military posture. One of the most significant proposals reportedly under consideration involves shifting portions of U.S. Central Command's operational footprint away from its traditional concentration in the Gulf. The details behind these discussions and the broader strategic implications have become an increasingly important topic among defense planners and security analysts. To understand why these discussions have gained momentum, it's important to look at the broader American military presence in the Middle East. The United States currently maintains approximately 19 military installations and operational sites across the region, with an estimated 40,000 to 50,000 service members deployed at any given time. According to various defense analyses and publicly available reports, repeated attacks over recent months have raised new questions about the long-term survivability of many of these bases during a sustained regional conflict. Military analysts note that installations across countries including Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Iraq, and Syria have all faced varying levels of security threats, ranging from missile attacks and drone strikes to indirect fire and proxy operations. These developments have reportedly prompted U.S. defense planners to examine several possible adjustments designed to improve force protection while preserving America's ability to operate throughout the region. Current reporting suggests 4 major areas are receiving particular attention. One of the most significant concepts under discussion is reducing reliance on large, permanent military installations. For decades, major facilities located close to Iran, including Camp Arif Jan in Kuwait and Sheikh Issa Air Base in Bahrain, have served as key logistical and operational hubs for U.S. forces. However, military planners increasingly recognize that these large, easily identifiable installations could become attractive targets during future conflicts. Instead of concentrating thousands of personnel and valuable equipment in a handful of major locations, planners are reportedly studying a more flexible model that disperses forces across multiple smaller operating sites. This approach, often referred to as distributed or agile basing, aims to complicate enemy targeting by spreading personnel, aircraft, and equipment over a much wider geographic area. Rather than relying on a few massive bases, future operations could be supported through a larger network of smaller facilities capable of rapidly expanding or relocating as operational requirements change. Another proposal reportedly under review involves relocating some of America's most sensitive command and control infrastructure farther away from the Persian Gulf. According to several strategic assessments, defense officials have examined options that would move portions of operational headquarters and other critical systems to locations offering greater geographic depth and additional reaction time against incoming missile or drone attacks. Some reports have identified Israel's Negev Desert as one possible area under consideration because of its existing military infrastructure and greater distance from many potential launch sites. Other analyses have also mentioned Yanbu on Saudi Arabia's Red Sea coast as a potential location for expanded logistical or command functions due to its strategic position farther from the Gulf. Supporters of this concept argue that increasing the distance between critical command facilities and potential threat zones could provide valuable additional time for missile detection, interception, and defensive response. Whether any of these proposals ultimately move forward remains uncertain. However, the fact that they are reportedly being studied illustrates how rapidly regional security calculations have evolved following recent attacks. Another major area receiving attention involves the future of air defense systems, protecting American bases throughout the region. Recent battlefield experience has exposed new challenges for traditional missile defense networks, particularly when responding to large coordinated attacks involving both ballistic missiles and waves of low-cost drones. Defense analysts note that while systems such as the Patriot missile battery remain highly effective against many threats, defending against large numbers of simultaneous drones presents a far more complex challenge. As a result, the U.S. military is reportedly accelerating efforts to deploy a new generation of mobile air defense systems, designed specifically to counter unmanned aerial threats. Several of these emerging technologies rely on directed energy weapons, including high-powered laser systems capable of engaging drones at a significantly lower cost than conventional interceptor missiles. Unlike traditional missile batteries, these systems can be transported more easily and rapidly deployed to protect command centers, aircraft shelters, ammunition depots, and other critical infrastructure. At the same time, military engineers are reportedly reviewing the physical design of American installations across the Middle East. Rather than placing command centers, communication hubs, and operational headquarters inside conventional surface buildings, future facilities could increasingly rely on hardened underground structures built to withstand missile attacks. The goal is to improve survivability even if incoming missiles successfully penetrate the outer layers of air defense. A fourth area under discussion extends beyond military hardware and focuses on America's long-term security partnerships throughout the Gulf. The conflict has created new political realities for both Washington and its regional allies. Several Gulf nations have reportedly expressed reservations about allowing their territory to be used as launch points for direct military operations against Iran, reflecting the delicate balance these governments must maintain between their security relationships and regional stability. For Washington, this presents a strategic challenge. A complete withdrawal from the Gulf could create opportunities for rival powers such as China and Russia to expand their political, economic, and military influence throughout one of the world's most strategically important regions. Instead of abandoning its presence altogether, analysts suggest the United States may gradually transition toward a different model of regional defense. Rather than relying primarily on large permanent bases, future security cooperation could emphasize integrated missile defense networks, real-time intelligence sharing, advanced digital command systems, and closer coordination among partner nations. This approach would allow the United States to maintain a significant military presence while reducing the vulnerabilities associated with concentrating forces in a small number of highly visible installations. Whether these reported changes ultimately reshape America's regional posture remains to be seen. What is clear is that recent attacks have forced military planners to reassess assumptions that had shaped U.S. strategy in the Middle East for decades. The conversation is no longer centered solely on expanding military capabilities. It is increasingly focused on where those capabilities should be positioned, how they should be protected, and what form America's future presence in the region should ultimately take. Taken together, these developments suggest that recent attacks have forced Washington to rethink many of the assumptions that have guided its military posture in the Middle East for years. Installations that were once viewed as symbols of American power and regional influence are now being examined through a different lens, one that places far greater emphasis on vulnerability to precision missiles, long-range drones, and increasingly sophisticated coordinated attacks. Whether every reported proposal is ultimately implemented remains uncertain. Military planning constantly evolves in response to changing battlefield conditions, political realities, and emerging technologies. However, defense analysts broadly agree that the debate inside Washington has shifted from expanding America's regional footprint to making that footprint more resilient, more flexible, and significantly harder to target. If current trends continue, the coming years could bring major changes to how U.S. forces are deployed across the Middle East. Instead of relying on a small number of large permanent installations, the United States may increasingly emphasize dispersed operations, mobile infrastructure, hardened command facilities, and deeper cooperation with regional partners. Some analysts have suggested that certain major bases could eventually see a reduced American presence if military planners conclude that alternative operating models provide greater security and operational flexibility. At the same time, few expect the United States to abandon the region altogether. The Middle East remains strategically important because of its geography, global energy routes, counterterrorism missions, and broader competition among major world powers. For that reason, any future changes are more likely to represent a transformation in how America projects military power rather than a complete withdrawal from the region. The decisions made over the next several years could shape the future balance of power across the Middle East, influencing not only America's military posture, but also the strategic calculations of Iran, Israel, the Gulf states, Russia, and China. Whether these adjustments ultimately strengthen regional stability or introduce new security challenges will depend on how rapidly both military technology and geopolitical realities continue to evolve.